Well, with that said, let's now turn our attention to the significant force behind FAIR. FAIR stands for the Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism. And the person who kind of got this all started was Bion Bartning. He has a very interesting story as well. If you're just joining us, this is Watching America. And Bion, I'd like to invite you to tell us how you got involved with this. Everything seemed to converge was the aftermath of the George Floyd protests and what have you. And you had your sons, a daughter and son, I believe, at Riverdale Country School in New York City. And you were quite disturbed by what you saw was being suggested and promoted.
Thank you. Yes. Great to be here. I have two children, as you said, live in Asher, and I want to preface this by saying I am not an activist. I am not somebody who is really focused on politics. So this is all quite new to me. But what I saw happening in my kids' school is in the name of anti-racism, the school rolled out a curriculum and, really embraced an ideology that in every sense of the word to me felt racist, and was encouraging children to obsess about the color of their skin, the color of other people's skin, instead of taking us in the direction that in my heart I have always known is the right direction, which is to see our common humanity and to see what brings us together and our commonalities. And for me, this was particularly important and salient because I have brown skin because of my ancestry. My father is Mexican and Yaqui, which is a Native American tribe, and my mother is Jewish American. And my children, because of their ancestry, because apparently my darker, more melanin-rich skin did not transfer down to my children, have lighter skin from my wife, who came to North America as a refugee from the former Soviet Union. And so my kids have a different skin color than me. And so for me, it was quite personal to see my kids' school encouraging my children and other children to see themselves as defined in every way, and to see their identity as defined by the color of their skin. Because I've always known that's wrong from my personal experience, but I also did not see any value to teaching children to see each other in that way.
Okay, so you were, as you've indicated, I should say, not were, you still are half Mexican and Yaqui, which is a border tribe found along the border between the United States and Mexico, and southwestern regions included. And your wife was a refugee to this country. She came from a USSR satellite nation where she was listed as being a Jew, so distinction placed there. So I would imagine, particularly for your wife, she was eager to get away from such separatist indicators. And then you're thrown right into it via your children from the school. When you protested, or at least expressed your displeasure, what was the reaction from the school? And again, I need to say that it's a Riverdale Country School, an unusual name for a New York City school, but Riverdale Country School, which was private. And they had this agenda, and you found disfavor with it for understandable reasons.
So I raised some questions, and I think it's generally speaking, as a parent, you're not always happy with everything that is happening in your kid's school, but you're not going to raise a question or concern about every little issue. I think what really caused me to speak up or just start to ask questions of the school was when I saw the curriculum that was being rolled out, which really lumped people into these political race groups. And, in particular, I'm half Jewish, and Jewish people were defined as being part of the white group, which I knew, having brown skin myself, that was not true. Not all Jewish people are white. I think at that point, I felt the need to speak up. But in particular, there was a school assembly right at the start of the school year where young children, my kids at the time were 7 and 8, so these were lower school students, ages 5 to 11, were told to check each other's words and actions And I think that for me and my wife having come from the former Soviet Union, where group identity defined you, and where conformity was not only encouraged, it was enforced. That admonition of young children to check each other's words and actions to make sure everybody was in line with the orthodoxy that was being imposed on them really concerned me. And so I thought, potentially naively at the time, that the school had just made a mistake and that they didn't understand what they were saying to these children, and that they didn't understand the curriculum that they had rolled out, and that they were just trying to do something to respond to the real genuine need to address issues of historical injustice and racism and bias. And these are real issues. And I just thought the school had made a mistake. So I, at that point, reached out to the school administration and did not really get much of a response. And ultimately was actually encouraged by the head of school to consider withdrawing our children from the school. And just with a reference to being, it's never good to be philosophically misaligned. And I think my wife and I at that point were shocked. It was not, this was not the direction that we thought things would go. We thought that if we just ask questions, raise concerns, based on our own lived experiences, our own worldview, which had not changed from the time that we enrolled our children, and that to us seemed quite reasonable. It really surprised us that we were invited to leave the school if we did not agree with the new philosophy.